Tim Howard is a key player in shaping and implementing the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, digital and data strategy. So he's run major projects and digital services at Defra, Crown Prosecution Service and HMRC, and he's always driving meaningful change there. He also has a Springer Spaniel who is absolutely mad because it's a Springer Spaniel, and he's from Yorkshire like me. So yeah, welcome Tim. I'm so excited about this Ask Me Anything. And he'll be talking for 10 minutes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being invited. It's my first time on Agile on the Beach, and it's really cool to be here. What an amazing opening keynote speech. I feel I should try and weave some of that into the conversation. There was so much there that I could take away and use. But yeah, so I'm Tim Howard. I work for Defra, as just been mentioned there. Quick overview of Defra itself, a ministerial department responsible for improving and protecting the environment, as you'd expect. Defra's quite complicated. It's actually 34 organisations, all trying to align to outcomes, but that makes it really difficult from an IT perspective to pull everyone together, because everyone's quite parochial and wants to do their own things. So doing things cross-cutting reuse kind of way is quite challenging. We have thousands of public-facing services, from flood warnings to farming grants to cow passports. If you ever want to take your pig for a walk, you will have to apply for a licence. And during the speech there, I actually looked up potatoes, and yes, we do have guidance on how to clean potatoes. So yeah, the Chinese farmers want to give us a bell, we can give advice, etc. A lot of our services are quite small scale with unique customer sets, so it's quite hard to make the case to digitise those services. So unfortunately, we have hundreds of paper-based services out there which provide a pretty horrible user experience. Not very joined up. You're providing the same data multiple times, and so really my role is try and reduce that barrier to entry to actually creating digital services and a good user experience. And GenAI is something that Defra started to look at in anger. In September, really, last year, we had a new supplier join us. Many of you probably know, Equal Experts, and we sat down, me and the owner, Ryan Sikorsky, who likes his GenAI. When I say likes, absolutely is incredibly into it, like you wouldn't believe. And we had a long lunch about how we could really make an impact in Defra, and we came out with 3 or 4 targets. And one of those was let's really kind of see where we can go with the new tooling that basically landed in 2024, really. I was actually reasonably cynical. I've set up 3 or 4 innovation teams at various departments in the past, and ended up with solutions running around for problems and kind of failing to get past what you call kind of the tech spike kind of piece and getting it actually into industrialization. So it was a healthy balance, really, with Ryan being this ultimate advocate and myself being a little bit of the more cynical aspect to it. So it was quite a good pairing in the way. Also, I don't know how many spikes on GitHub Copilot over the previous year or so. Government did a big rollout to see what impact it could have, and it came out with a massive saving of 26 minutes per user if it was rolled out across government, which was hardly enthralling, as it were. But we set off predominantly using Cursor and Windsurf, the 2 new IDEs that had landed, and we set off with a tiny team of 3 people to see what we could do. Our journey's been pretty good. We've gone from this initial exploration and to cut to the end. It's been, the genie's out of the bottle. It's been fantastic. The potential is enormous. We've gone through all the various stages to now we're actually using it in anger. The tools that we created in the first instance were tools for my internal team. I was looking for really safe places to actually give a proper business problem, but really predominantly it was about the learnings we'd get from actually using the tools themselves. So part of my role is to assure and enable the delivery teams in best practice and help them and meet the various standards, the GDS standards, the dev standards that are in place, etc. And we looked at tools that could help with that. So one thing that we built was a code review that we could point at a repository and see that whether it aligned with with the standards that we'd expect. We try to automate a lot of our governance. Our governance is horrendous, as you can imagine, in the civil service, so we're trying to cut through all that and automate as much of that as possible. And we also played quite heavily around with some agentic framework work to help in policy, of the generation of new policies. There's an awful lot of new EU reset work coming through, and we're using the agentic framework to support there. So they're quite safe places to use it because it wasn't customer facing, etc. And doing that allowed us to basically learn a lot of lessons and pull together an enormous amount of artifacts that are a crumb trail for others to pick up. So we're particularly proud of our Defra playbook that we've created, and then there's also tool guidance, and the team that was originally created is now an enabling team, and they're supporting other teams in developing using these GenAI tools. The playbook covers things like ways of working, good practice, generates, gives an idea of what a workflow using GenAI tools would look like. It's got a quite comprehensive prompt library in there for use that anybody can pick up. So it's trying to expedite usage. And I think I will steal it. I might have to change the wording, but that kind of suck zone, try and get our teams out of that suck zone as quickly as possible into actually wanting to using the tools as quickly as possible. It has absolutely proven that delivery is quicker. That's delivery of actually generating the code. We've still got all of the other things, the processes and governance, etc., to change to really take advantage. We've got a comprehensive measurement framework in place to really show and get the lessons learned of the benefits, etc., and where we need to change and how to adopt and use and how we use it. We've been able to prove that it does meet the standards that we're measuring ourselves against the same standards. So trying to ensure that we stay the right side of that. And now, I say, with this hub and spoke model, we have a number of early adopters who are using these tools in different levels of disruption. We think actually team shape will start to look different. We think actually the delivery life cycle, going through a discovery, alpha and a beta phase, might start to get quite disrupted. You might start prototyping or actually building much earlier. You get that distance to the customer, I think, will get an awful lot smaller, and the feedback loops will get an awful lot quicker. And it's we're still learning and trying to work out how we take benefit of all of those. Got an awful lot of lessons learned, but a lot of these are no different to anything else, really. At the end of the day, it is just a technology. So it's how do we land these tools with our people safely, because there's quite rightly a lot of nervousness, etc. It's all kinds of worries, does this threaten my job, or security issues, etc., etc. Making sure that the tools are very good at some stuff and do make errors as well. So how do we always maintain quality, etc. So our next phase is really to continue to expand, and we're taking this well out of just code development now and using it to support user research, to use product. I don't see an area where we won't be using these tools in some regard, right, in the software delivery lifecycle, but also just widely across Defra. So that's my very, very quick introduction. So I think we're open to questions.
Amazing. Thank you, Tim. So does anyone have any questions? Oh, we have one immediately from Claire, so let me jump down. Claire.
Hi, yeah, so you had a statistic up there about 5 times faster in terms of producing code.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that happens with GenAI and code creation is that it externalizes the cost. So, yeah, okay, you might create lines of code more quickly, but now you have to deal with those lines of code. You have to maintain them, you have to integrate them with other systems, you have to work out whether they are maintainable, readable, all the rest of it. So the generation of the code might be quicker, but then you have to do stuff with it, and you have to maintain it long term. So I'm interested in what impacts you've seen on that. That you're kind of potentially moving the work further down the line. Have you seen that happen?
Yeah, it's interesting, some of the behaviours that it creates. We found code becomes a lot more disposable. We found some of the teams could get stuck in a death loop sometimes of really trying to fix what they've already created, and actually they've learned once you go so far, just forget it and start again, because it's so quick to get from A to B. What we've also really discovered is, which is quite obvious really, is all the best practice still is even more relevant arguably than it was before. It can expedite you get into a very bad place very quickly if you want. But things like, being really, really clear on your requirements, got to be very, very exact in creating those in the first place. But arguably you should have been doing that anyway, because, things are open to misinterpretation, etc. So, all the practices, with recent releases, we've struggled to do test-driven development, for instance, but we've now been able to crack that more or less. There's an argument in future where you still need to do it, but that's too deep for me right now, as it were. But yeah, I think my main point is it's an expediter really that supports good practice already. So, we're not changing so much that you're throwing away all of the good practice that you were doing before. It should just help and speed you up the process in doing that. But there are some changes, like I say, that we're seeing that code is becoming a lot more disposable, for instance.
Thank you. Go again.
So you've mentioned now that the specifications or requirements are kind of more important. What's different in is there a difference in how you're doing kind of requirements to be more precise for AI as opposed to humans?
Well, certainly well, no, on the basics, no. And again, like I say, you should have been doing that anyway. But I guess you haven't got someone else to blame now, because it's the machine that's throwing it back at you. But we're trying to structure it, creating the libraries, creating the structure of how you capture requirements, which we're doing anyway. I think you just become much more prescriptive about it, as it were. And then, with the results that come back, you continue to refine, and the refinement loop is probably a lot quicker than it was before, because it forces you to do that really. But I wouldn't say things have significantly changed. It's just the speed at which you learn lessons is an awful lot quicker, and it forces you to learn lessons an awful lot quicker.
Great, thank you. There's so many questions. This is Ace. Hiya.
Thanks very much. I was just interested about lots of AI to do with coding. This is kind of text-oriented. Are you looking at creating visualizations? So, for example, we've got teams of architects who are trying to draw diagrams of complex systems. Are you using the tools to help with those sorts of things? Yeah,
that governance checker, that show to start with, it started off as more or less just you didn't need AI for that, or it was more or less just a list of what needed to do. But some of those steps are to generate architectural overviews, DPIA, all the documentation that you need to get a service into production, and we're trying to use the tooling to generate those documents automatically, as it were, so taking a lot of the heavy lifting and the weight away, as it were. So yes, that's especially in government. Obviously, we are heavily governed, as it were. I think we had someone do a review of our governance processes. They are completely broken. We have to go through something like 50 different boards and fill in over 100 artifacts to get a service into production. So we really need to fix that, the actual process. But while that isn't fixed, this is a way of really speeding up and getting through that.
A lot of these, for all the benefit the tools bring, they get a lot of bad press around their kind of eco-credentials. Defra in particular, with its eco policies and sustainability policies. How are you monitoring or keeping a check on these tools' impact on that and its just kind of sustainability going forward? Yeah,
I'm well aware of the potential kind of contradiction, really, of Defra using what's potentially the least sustainable tools. So the playbook has a big section on sustainability, and it's fed in there. So there's guidance on there. There are certain things that you can do. So we're trying to create kind of the aim of using tech responsibly, using AI responsibly. So only use it when you really need to do it. You know, if you can use smaller LLMs, use it. You know, if you do stuff locally, etc. So we're trying to refine the way we use it, but also in the kind of early adopter phase, we are measuring it as well. So there are trade-offs. Yes, in a small amount of time there, you're hitting the AI, and it's not always the most sustainable way of working. But then, because of the speed generation of delivering the service end to end, you can set it off against other savings. So we're trying to show that objectively what the impact is. But yeah, Defra itself is the lead department across government for sustainability and IT. So we're also trying to put guidance out there and feed into that. But yeah, I do understand the potential for contradiction that we're supposed to be leading on sustainability and then lead the press around the well, it's not the press, it's fact. It's not the most sustainable tooling to use at times. So it's trying to use it responsibly in the right way.
Hi, you mentioned the early adopters in your section around the key achievements. I'm just really interested to know how you're dealing with the laggards in the business, the guys at the other end of the adoption curve. I'm one of them. Our business has also been kind of really proactive in saying, it's here, let's go for it. And yeah, I'm really curious to just know sort of how do you take the people on the journey who aren't the early adopters?
Yeah, there's... I mean, I don't see it as particularly different to anything else, really. You've got to show the benefits, you've got to understand their fears, be empathetic to why they maybe don't want to use these tools, etc. I think there's a lot of people think the job will become quite dull. I've got quite some experienced devs who are like, well, I want to do this stuff, I want to problem solve, this is going to take all the fun away, when actually I think that's a bit of a misnomer. So it's trying to really tap into whatever their fear is, and their incentives as well. Sometimes, we gain resources from all manner of, we have perms, we have contingent labour, we have suppliers. Really think through about what the incentives of them to be on the Defra account, and does this actually start to threaten their reasoning of being there and their incentive for being there, and being able to change it so they're incentivized to use them in the right way in the right times, as it were. So yeah, I don't see it as anything we don't have to take too much of a different approach to how you land change in any organisation. Really be empathetic, understand their fears, and try and demonstrate the benefits. We've got very much a hands-on approach right now. How scalable that's going to be. So the enabling team pairs with the adoption teams, and they pair together, and they're able to go through that kind of early process together, and remove some of those fears. And we've generated quite a lot of artifacts to try and automate that away and shift it left. So we have some videos, and we have some PowerPoint decks, etc. But at the minute, it's very much a hand-holding experience.
Thanks. I'll go over here.
Thank you. We both had our hands raised, which is interesting, kind of work out who should do it. Hi, I'm Paul. This is absolutely great. I'm really interested to hear how you're able to share your experiences across government. Is every department doing something similar? Are there forums for sharing so that everybody's not siloed and reinventing the wheel?
Yeah, that would be lovely, wouldn't it? There is a... One thing I've learned even within Defra is everyone to some level is parochial and wants to do things their own way. That's why to some degrees the central government initiative sort of failed. And I'm hugely aware I'm hypocritical sometimes. I create a platform in Defra and say, right, I want everyone to use my platform, and then there's a cross-government platform, and I say, I'm not using that yet. It's not good enough. I want to build my own. So I know I'm hypocritical on that, but there is actually just been launched across AI Government Forum, which meets on a monthly basis, where we share experiences. For those who worked in government 15, 13, 14, whatever years ago, we had an exemplar program to really kick into agile and digital ways of working when GDS first set off. There's going to be a number of AI exemplars, so they're going to relaunch that kind of model again and share the learnings there. So yeah, I'm reasonably hopeful that there'll be a level of cross-government. I think the way it learns best is actually people moving around, as it were, and then that's a different topic altogether about how we foster skills and support people's careers, and and if they start moving around different departments, then they take that knowledge and experience with them. But yeah, there's initiatives kicking off.
Oh.
You mentioned there's human reviewers.
Yep.
Did the risk of hallucinations manifest a lot? Goiko sort of mentioned having to work around hallucinations. Was that present, and how did you mitigate it?
Yes, yeah, it certainly did. And then you start to use humans to validate and verify and change that stuff, and then you realise, well, actually, why don't we use like another LLM to validate what the first one came out with and start to compare and contrast, and so you start to try and automate your way out of that a little bit as much as possible. And that's where the problem solving, that's where I think it's really interesting for the guys working on it. I don't work on it on the ground. I'm kind of the man who goes and gets the money and provides the air cover for the teams to do what they do. But yeah, it depends who you speak to, really. Some people, are sort of like Ryan, who work with closely. He is so bullish about where it will get to very far soon, because these tools are only, a year old, etc. We've seen them at the very worst, really, and still hugely powerful, having a massive impact. The human in the loop and how that will work and manifest in the future, I couldn't even predict. But yeah, at the minute, we tried to automate the way out of it after you've worked out how to do it with a human, if that makes sense.
Question around use of AI for addressing legacy code bases. What you've talked about feels like you're more able to address greenfield type development, but often you're having to kind of address code that's in production. Are there differences in your approaches for those kind of situations?
So we revisited the lunch that kicked all of this off on Monday, actually, and said, we've ticked the boxes on everything to do. What do we do next? And the next is the big green, the legacy, the real blackfield sites, the real mess. So our experience of using them with legacy is not great yet, because we haven't done much. Most of it has been in fresh greenfield. But our assumption is it will be a real ripe area to tackle, and that the tools will really prove themselves even more strongly in that particular area. Again, I think the challenges will end up being, there'll be some technological challenges in the early days, but it will be commercials, people, processes, access, all those kind of licenses, all those kind of things. Fear, as humans don't perceive risk great, and so some of the risks that we'll have to show that we mitigate will be challenging to get over, to get signed off to do stuff. But we haven't done it yet, so that's the next stage. The two big things we came up with that, and then it was genuine transformation. I still feel as a government we're still digitising paper processes, really. We still, log on, fill in some information, and it's a little bit better than doing it on paper. But actually, really going back to the core problem of what you're trying to achieve in the first place, and see if we can actually really think about the problem in a completely different way, and using some of the tools to help us with that.
Have you found that junior developers struggle to use it and recognise that maybe this is a poor output? And how are you training juniors when you're using AI code?
So as the enabling team, we've brought in some apprentices and I guess juniors into that. So they're loving it. But they are sat next to some very senior people as well. So because it became a bit of a existential question, I guess, of like you need the human in the loop who needs all the experience to validate what's done right. But in years to come, where are they going to get the experience if the juniors have been using the tools in the first place? So that I haven't squared that off really as an answer. I don't really know how that will sort itself. But I mean, I know I shouldn't equate junior with age, so apologies. But you know, I know even just my daughter. You know, they're just using these tools just naturally as the way. My daughter's off interrailing at the minute. It's all planned through ChatGPT, the whole schedule of everything she's done, etc. And she's done an English degree. She's doing most of her English degree, it seems, on ChatGPT, but that's a different story altogether. But yeah, so I think adoption will come in different forms, but I think be interested on recruitment and what we ask for in people. I think it'll be much more on behaviours. You know, we want really curious people who will. That the speed of change of these tools is so phenomenal. The traditional training route probably isn't going to work. We need people to really take to own their own development and you know, keep up to speed themselves, as it were. So yeah, it's going to be fascinating how it plays out.
Have you started changing team structure or team size or something?
Yes, so we've of the early adoption teams, we've got one team which is completely the same as what a normal team would be, all the same governance processes, all et cetera, so they're kind of like my benchmark team to see what the impact is. My assumption is they will deliver no quicker, so it's kind of proving the point that you can't just use the tools, because it all comes down to flow and constraints, and you know, you need to change everything. Then we've got different levels of disruption, and then we've got one team in Natural England, which is a team formed of our best guess of what things will look like in the future, and they have permission to air cover to kind of ignore any governance and procedures and processes that we don't think will be needed in future, and that is just a 3-person team. And already they're starting to give themselves new titles of product generalist or something, that some kind of T-shaping kind of title, as it were. So yeah, we're trialing in delivery using different team shapes and different ways of working.
Okay, so that's it. Is there anything that you want to like tell us about or warn us about before we go?
I mean, we've had fantastic backing and leadership, so that's been the number one thing. But I think I set off as a cynic at the start, a healthy cynic, enough to want to do it and back doing it. But yeah, there's no going back now. So I think I would just get on board. All of our stuff is out in the open. If you want to comment, it's all in GitHub, etc. Please have a look, etc. And we're just trying to help create communities to engage. So it's great with events like this to share knowledge and experience. So please share on the learning journey, because it's quite scary but really exciting.
Thank you so much.